Hello.
Hi, everybody.
Hello, everyone. We are Ob and Court from Dandelion Branding, and this is Environmental Podcast.
Yeah, this is our podcast where we choose topics around sustainability and we talk about them from a social and environmental standpoint.
And today we have a special guest. We're joined by Lizzie Horvitz, who is the founder of Finch. And so thank you so much for being here, Lizzie.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
Yes, absolutely. So, can you tell us a little bit more about Finch and what you do?
Absolutely. So, Finch is a platform that decodes products' environmental and social impacts to help consumers make better purchasing decisions. So, basically, think of any category that's not in the food space. We have a proprietary algorithm that rates those categories based on a variety of attributes. And then through a browser extension, you can be shopping online. And when you click on a certain product, we'll show you what that score is, and then three alternatives in case you're interested in making a better purchase decision.
Super cool. So, one of our questions was, how do you see a product's rating? But it's actually a browser extension.
Exactly. So we launched a beta version of our extension in May, and that was just to 60 special people who we've sort of picked their brains for the past several months. And with that sort of customer discovery, we're launching a new version in January that everybody will have access to. So you'll be able to download it in late January.
Dang, I want it. We're having it.
I want it. Yeah. Sign me up. Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, what an incredible way of just empowering the consumer to make better decisions. Like it can be such an intimidating process to shop online, especially with the amount of like greenwashing that's out there. So having a tool that's that simple is so incredible. That's
Yeah, the way that we think about it, thank you, is kind of like a nerd wallet for sustainability. So when you think of, I don't know if you're familiar with NerdWallet, but they are a platform that I use a lot to figure out what type of credit card should I buy or what mortgage should I be getting on a new house, et cetera. And you sort of know that that's your one-stop shop. When you Google anything about credit cards, NerdWallet is the first thing that comes up. There's shockingly nothing that exists like that in the sustainability space. If you can imagine back to the last time you tried to Google something, you get a mix of searches from unverified blog posts to academic journals that you don't have the time to read. And so Finch is really trying to take that space in the middle for most people who believe in climate change, want to do something about it, but don't really have more than 7 minutes to research it online.
Yeah. Wow, that's really a game changer.
yeah. And you said that it uses an algorithm. Like, can you tell us a little bit more how that works? Like, what is it? What are the criteria it's kind of looking for?
Sure. So we start with the product category. So let's take shampoo as an example. And we do a lot of back end research in NGO reports, academic studies, peer reviewed articles that show the impacts of different components of shampoo, whether it's the shipping or the disposal, the materials used, et cetera. And we figure out quantitatively what impacts the sustainability of shampoo the most, and we put numbers on that. We weight those different factors, and then we feed that into a machine learning model, which then scrapes the public domain for SEC filings, press releases, sustainability reports, anything that's found on the public domain, something as simple as Amazon details pages, and gives products a score within a couple of minutes. And so the beauty of that is, once we're still very early on, we've identified 80 attributes that impact the sustainability of a product. We have only incorporated around 20 of them so far, and that's because we want to be very clear that we understand the data and there's enough sort of peer-reviewed studies to show what that actual impact is before integrating it.
Whoa. Well, I just want to say, like, thank you for doing that.
Thank
It's a
you.
shitload of work, and I think it could make a big difference. Like, how, I guess so you're working with 20 attributes right now, but there's 80 that you have in total. So is one of your goals to be operational with all 80 or
Absolutely. And, it's a mix of our own resource constraints. Obviously, we're a small team, and so there's only so much that our amazing scientist Mark can do in a day, only 24 hours in a day. But then there's also constraints on where the academia is right now. So Mark is reading reports that came out 2 months ago. And he will continue to be scraping for new studies that come out. But, one example would be microplastics. We know that microplastics are impacting the sustainability of products. We know that there's likelihood that they'll shed microplastics in certain product categories. There's just not enough valuable research quite yet for us to feel confident integrating that in our algorithm. And so we would expect over the next, year to year and a half, really, we will be slowly incorporating all of them.
Whoa, that's not that long.
No, that's our guess right now. Who knows what will happen in 18 months, but that's sort of our goal, is that over time we will be able to integrate most attributes.
Interesting that like the wall you hit is the research wall. How and it's not as much of like the building the actual algorithm or building the tech or anything like that. It's really like there's a lack of viable research and data on what's happening in the sustainability industry and what, like you're saying, like what products do shed microplastics and what does that mean, and how do you prove that, and how do you prove it across product lines? If I have a shirt that's made from polyester and one that's made from a polyester blend, how do you calculate the impact and the microplastic shedding in a shirt?
It's so tricky. And then not to mention, there are also factors that go into that t-shirt sustainability, like what type of washing machine do you have? Is it an Energy Star? Are you traveling to go do your laundry? How often are you washing that shirt? So we're excited to do some more personalization as well. So not only integrating those attributes, but also how many other shirts do you have? If this is your only shirt and you're washing it every single day versus you own this and you wear it once a year, there are trade-offs to both of those. And so how long something lasts and how you're personally using it, where you are in the world, probably between where you two are geographically, your numbers might look very different. And so there's a lot to integrate, but we are hopeful that this is just a first step to sort of cut through, as you said, I think the greenwashing, where so many of these terms are unregulated. There's really no stopping any company from saying this is eco-friendly or all natural, right? Because those mean absolutely nothing. Chemical free is not a real thing because chemicals are everywhere. And so we're just trying to sort of start that baseline and hopefully grow over time and encourage companies to be more transparent with the information that they're willing to share.
Wow. That's another goal that I'm like hearing you talk about, is like getting other companies to be more transparent, because I think that's something that didn't originally come to mind. I think for me with this product with Finch, because if you're doing all of this work and somebody has the extension and then they see chemical free and then their extension is like red on their rating scale, they're going to leave that site, right? Now you've lost customers. Now the brands who are pandering to a sustainable audience can't do that anymore, because you're going, nope, I'm looking at all of your ingredients. I'm looking at like the manufacturing information you have available. I'm looking at all of this stuff, and you're not scoring high enough for me. Wow.
Exactly. So we are really excited to use that as a leverage point. I mean, our overarching goal is for all companies, right, to hit a sustainability baseline where they're all performing in a positive way. And obviously, it goes without saying that any physical product is going to be detrimental in some way to the planet. We would never score a product a 10 for that exact reason. But there's so much that companies can do. And right now it's really tough to get user-facing data to inform business decisions, because companies spend oftentimes hundreds of thousands of dollars on focus groups where consumers say, of course I would pay an extra $3 on, an organic cotton shirt instead of a polyester shirt. When in reality, that's not the case at checkout. And so these companies are getting imperfect, inaccurate information because not because consumers are lying, but because they don't know themselves very well. And so with this browser, we will have the ability to collect data, and it's always going to be aggregated and anonymized. We never sell personal data, but we'll be able to say to companies, women between the ages of 25 and 30 were 20% more likely to buy a detergent strip instead of liquid detergent. And they care most about the waste factor, and they switched at X percentage. So that incentivizes companies to take a step back and say, okay, we either we're sustainable, we are doing the right things and we need to market it differently, or we're not and we need to rethink sort of the makeup of our products.
Yeah. Wow. It's really impactful. Really impactful. So. One of the questions I wanted to ask you, I guess it's a little bit of the hardball world, is how much do you think that consumer behavior and choice makes a real impact in a lot of ways? And I think you hit the nail on the head, where hopefully once consumers start to see reds or yellows in the rating scale, then on a larger scale, brands will start to make choices and make changes internally. But how much do you think in the beginning, especially, like consumer behavior and consumer choice will make that impact, even if everybody was using Finch?
It's a really good question, and I have so many thoughts on this. I think my main thesis when I'm asked that question, which is quite often, is the solutions to climate change are not either or, they're both and. I think there's no doubt in my mind that climate change will be reversed from incredibly advanced technologies like carbon capture and microgrids and all these exciting things that are happening in the space. But that's not to say that we don't need all these other levers. And I think at the very least, you have consumers who are getting exposure to this every time they go on Amazon, which then leads them to vote differently and to think about how much they're driving, and sort of this domino effect. So I think at the very beginning, it's not, oh my gosh, we got, Ob to switch her t-shirts. That's going to save, global footprints. But a lot of the two of you together makes a big impact. And then also, to your point, the biggest lever will be when companies understand that they need to change their practices and start doing that. There's an amazing podcast called How to Save a Planet. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it's hosted by someone I can't think of the name of, and then Ayanna Johnson, who's an amazing marine biologist, PhD. And they did this exact study on sort of like, what is it even worth individual consumers making a change? And the answer is, at the individual level, no. If you're one person,
right,
your changes won't be seen on a global scale. But the more we talk about it, the more it's top of mind, the more likely that the things that actually will have an impact will change.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's why we do what we do. We work with sustainable brands, and we have a podcast called EnvironMental, because we want to bring sustainability into a mainstream conversation. And I think we're like really aligned there. And I think Finch is like a really incredible step. I'm honestly really impressed by that.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah. I'm curious, like, how did you get involved in the sustainability space?
I lived off of the grid in the Bahamas when I was 16 years old, and was in an environment that was run on solar energy, wind energy. The cars were run on biofuel from nearby cruise ships that were left over, like frying oil. And this was 2004, and the global discussion on climate change was not even close to what it is today. It was really not
Yeah.
top of mind for a lot of people, particularly not for a 16-year-old.
Mhm.
But this experience really opened my eyes to this beautiful way of living that could be scaled. And just sort of my exposure to our dependence on fossil fuels and how there's a better way to think about things. And I feel really lucky because I think if you were to ask most people who are in the sustainability field, they first got involved due to these stressful sites that they're seeing, right? Like burning wildfires and a turtle with a straw in its nose, et cetera. These like horrible, horrible visions, which is a really negative way to enter into a field. And I feel very, very lucky that I was able to see sort of the solution before I fully understood the problem.
Yeah.
And from there, I really just dedicated my life to mitigating climate change in the private sector. I wanted to work with large companies to mitigate their footprint. So that took me to get my MBA and my master's in environmental management focused exactly on that. And then I worked at Unilever for 3 years. I was on their supply chain team and then on their sustainability team, helping integrate the Unilever Sustainable Living Plan into the 38 brands in North America. So that was incredible because I was able to work with everything from Ben & Jerry's to Dove soap to Seventh Generation. And while I was there, something interesting started happening in my personal life. I began to get a ton of questions from family and friends about how they could reduce their own footprint. And I realized, as I said in the very beginning, that this content was so scattered and there was nothing out there that was really serving my purpose. And I have a background in this, let alone a lot of other normal people's purposes. And so that's sort of where I had the idea for Finch.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah. Finch is awesome. And what is your like blog called? It's so interesting. I just had it pulled
The
up.
Decoded blog, and then we have Wise Guides.
Oh,
Wise Guides.
Wise
The
Guides.
Wise Guides are so awesome. And basically you just break down everything going on with a very specific product. And you have so many of them. I mean, I assume that you'll just keep going.
Thank you. Yeah, so we're working very hard on scaling up our Wise Guides right now because I think we only have around 20 and we have 85 categories rated. So we need to learn a little bit more. We really just break down, here's what you need to know about this product because there's so much misinformation. People, for example, are so bent out of shape about the plastics industry, which I obviously agree with and understand, but there are a lot of aspects people don't think about, like the impact of the energy required to create an aluminum bottle when you're only going to use it once and throw it away, or other alternatives. And so there's just a lot of misinformation. And so we're trying to equip people with this data so that it's not overwhelming, but just here are 3 things you need to know about these products. So we have 85 now. We would like to get to, we'd love to cover all of Amazon at some point. That's probably 500, 600 categories at least. And I think the goal right now is to start with mostly products. We have a couple of outliers, but mostly products that are consumable. So people buy them often and they use them often, of which there are a lot of options. So that, if you choose to go with Finch on a toilet paper brand that we recommend and you end up not liking it, it's not a huge deal because you have to buy more toilet paper in a couple of months. Whereas with cars or engagement rings or much larger purchases, we kind of would like to wait until our algorithm is a bit more advanced, and also people trust us and they know that we are recommending good products.
Yeah. How do you choose the products to recommend?
They are the highest ones in our proprietary algorithm. And so it's essentially whichever is scored the highest. And then we do a little bit of tweaking where, what might happen is for laundry detergents, 3 of the top products are 7th generation, unscented 7th generation, lavender, and 7th generation something else. We don't want to just recommend one brand. And so what we would probably do is choose the top 7th generation and then go down to the next brand so that we have a variety. So it's like, 2% manual work, but mostly it's just integrated directly into our algorithm.
Sweet.
Yeah.
I was like, how do they choose that? But it makes sense that it's AI.
Mm-hmm.
Total sense. Yeah.
Yeah, we, when we started out, I had this blog before Finch for 4 years. We started out just doing manual, like, these are the companies we heard of. This is a cool company to check out. And now that we have our AI, we're sort of hoping that will teach us more internally on what the best products are. And so there are some products that come out that we've never heard of and never tried, but the reviews on Amazon are great, and we have our own sort of internal group of testers, and so it's worked out for the most part.
I love that. That's really cool. You can be exposed to new brands even.
Exactly. And then what's really exciting is that down the road, we will have a track record of what products are really ripe for disruption. Not to sound super lame and businessy, but there are some categories that are still really detrimental to the planet, and there aren't good alternatives where we will be able to say, hey, anybody looking to start a company, you should look at the blender industry or vacuums or something else that those are probably two bad examples because they're not that detrimental to the planet, but like detergent is really filled with chemicals, and there are some good alternatives but not great. And so we'll sort of be able to keep track of how all those industries overall and categories are doing, which I'm really excited about.
Sweet. And your algorithm uses Amazon products in particular?
Right now, it's just on Amazon, and we made a conscious decision to start with that because it's sort of a heavy technological lift to scrape other retailer sites. And there are obviously, Amazon's not perfect. There are issues with it, but everybody shops there. And so we wanted to start with sort of where most people did their shopping. And it's been interesting to do some customer research on, okay, if you have a choice of only shopping on Amazon, but you have 500 categories rated, or you have the opportunity to go to, any website on that you want, but it's only in 5 categories, which would you prefer? And we haven't gotten super clear feedback on that, but we're still bullish on, getting a variety of categories and just being on Amazon for
quantity. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. It gives you way more data for your algorithm too than scraping other sites.
Exactly.
My question stems from something like, we work with small brands, and a lot of those small brands that are really focused on sustainability are choosing not to promote on Amazon. So could a brand like reach out to you and say, hey, I want to be on Finch? How do they get on there? Is that something that maybe is being developed for the future? Or
it's a really important thing that we're thinking about in real time, and we haven't fully found an answer. I think 100% we want to work with those companies. We want them on our platform. It's just a matter of how that shows up. If it's, because we don't need to have like a formal partnership with Amazon, what we could do eventually is recommend a product that's out of the Amazon ecosystem. So it would take you to that direct website, which we would be happy to do. So that's probably the easiest way to do that. And that's something that I would imagine will come in the next 6 months for us, because there are so many companies that are doing great things. The other thing that's tricky about small businesses is we depended in the early days, not as much now, but early on a lot of certifications. And these small companies might be doing all the right things, but don't have $1,000 to get B Corp certified or something like that. And so we are trying to advance our model to ensure that those smaller companies are getting sort of getting the look that they deserve, despite, lack of formal certifications.
Yeah. Okay, that was another question I had, because they're expensive, and a new business, especially in the sustainability realm, sustainable products have so much less of a markup in general. They're more expensive to produce. They're more expensive to sell. They're not impulse buys. So yeah, it makes sense that you're trying to use the certifications, but also just look at brand values and how things are actually being created there. Very cool.
Thank you.
Wow. What other goals do you have for Finch? Kind of how do you see it growing in the future? Besides just, of course, adding more variety.
Yeah, there are so many different directions we're excited to go in. I think the first is, like you said, just adding variety, covering most of the internet. We're really excited to simultaneously be personalizing more, like I mentioned, where, we would be able to say at some point, like, hey, Cord, I think you bought a pair of sneakers last month. Like, do you actually need this new pair of sneakers? And if so, that's going to be a higher score because nobody needs to do 2 pairs of sneakers, right? So we're excited to really
sustainability fairy on someone's shoulder.
Exactly. We're excited to dig into that opportunity. And as I mentioned, it's going to be a heavy lift to think through like what the water makeup is in California versus the Netherlands versus Denver and how those scores change. So that sort of medium. And then long term, we really want to be that trusted source, as like cliche as it sounds. We want to, when people want to buy better and when companies want to do the right thing, we want to be that resource. So everything from, okay, I'm recycling this in a small municipality, I got to go to Finch to see if it's even recyclable. Or
I want that now. I want to do it now.
Yeah, I mean, what's crazy, and this just speaks to our thesis, is we did a bunch of research on, I had an amazing high school intern actually do a lot of research on sort of all 50 states and then the top 40 cities on recycling laws, because it's so complicated and changes with every single zip code. And the best resource we found thus far was in Martha Stewart Living. And this is I love Martha Stewart, no hate on her, but there's no reason that Martha Stewart should be sort of like the main source of information on how to recycle certain goods. And so what normally happens today is that people have the best intentions. They'll look for a couple of minutes and then they'll give up, right? People want to recycle a TV or they want to buy a new toy for their children. And after 10 minutes, it's like, this isn't worth it. I'm just going to take the cheapest option or the best option out there. And we are trying to just take that barrier out of the way so that, and really democratize this type of information.
Awesome.
Yeah. It just makes everything so much more attainable for like the average person to just, it can feel really intimidating, I think, to start with trying to make your life more sustainable. And so, yeah, making something that's that user-friendly, that intuitive and helpful. Yeah, that's what folks need. So I'm really excited to see what you guys have to come. Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Is there anything else you want to mention to an audience or bring up, or any cool thing you have coming up to look out for, or before we
I am not sure, I should have asked before we started recording, I'm not sure when this launches, but we are, or when this podcast will become public, but we are launching January 25th, our browser extension. And so I would encourage everybody to go to our website, choosefinch.com, and sign up to be notified once you're able to download the extension, and reach out to us. We're still small enough where we're able to respond directly to you if you have any questions on specific ingredients or categories or things that we should be talking about. And so, we want to provide data that's helpful to the end consumer. And so please feel free to reach out. And then cool things that are upcoming is really just this launch. And then I think we're creating a platform for companies to use so that they can share the ratings on their own platform in case people don't have the browser extension. And so we're sort of doing that in the back.
Brand could be like, our rating on Finch is green.
That is one, but it's more when you're shopping on Sephora, for example. Sephora will have integrated the Finch rating so that it just says like, this is a 9 out of 10, this is a 6 out of 10, and it's powered by Finch in the background.
Awesome. Whoa. Okay.
Cool.
Yeah.
So it's an integration. Yeah.
Exactly. It's an integration.
Rad. Wow.
Per product.
Per product. Yep. On the product level.
Yeah. Yes. Awesome.
That is incredible.
Thank you.
Wow.
We're so excited.
So folks can find you at choosefinch.com. You mentioned, where else can folks find you? On social?
We're on Instagram at choosefinch, on Twitter at choosefinch, and on LinkedIn at Finch. We have some exciting updates in all of those places. So look out. We're getting into TikTok a bit more, and so stay tuned for that. But yeah, it's been really fun.
Wow. Awesome. Thank you so much, Lizzie. This has been really incredible.
Thank you so much. This was fantastic, and I really appreciate you helping spread the word.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, very, very inspiring. Yeah, can't wait to follow along everything you've got launching. Yeah, hopefully we can definitely bring some more signups for the waitlist to you. So we got more folks who are going to download that extension. We definitely will be. So that's, yeah. Yeah, thank you for all the work that you've put into this. It's, I mean, yeah, incredible.
Thanks for the work that you guys do too. It's fantastic and such a great, important thing to be able to broadcast what other people are doing.
Thanks. Thank you. Yeah, wow. And thank you guys all for watching. Yeah, hope you enjoyed. Definitely check out Choose Finch, and we'll talk to you next time.
Bye.